You're listening to Bold Hearts, Big Moves, the show for female entrepreneurs who want it all: a thriving business, deep self love, and fulfilling relationships. I'm Erin Anderson, and each week we will dive into how to set stronger boundaries, make empowered choices, and show up in life and business with boldness, authenticity, and heart. Because let's be real, the money you make is directly related to the love that you have for yourself and the strength of your relationships. So if you're ready to lead with love and make those big moves with those bold hearts, let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Bold Hearts, Big Moves. So today I'm going to talk to you about one of the key boundaries that I tell my clients to have, and that is the boundary of being your own best friend. Now, why do I say that? Again, like I came from the world of betrayal trauma. I have another podcast. It's called The Other Side of the Struggle, Healing from Betrayal Trauma, where we talk a lot about healing from betrayal trauma. The thing that was really interesting to me is I noticed that in the female entrepreneur community, the idea of betrayal wasn't really in their language. Trauma absolutely was, but the idea of betrayal definitely wasn't. And I think a lot of the reason why is because the mindset of the female entrepreneur community is one where they have a lot more faith and trust in themselves, right? But I've noticed like in more of the betrayal trauma community, there's still just a really, really big fracture of faith and trust in selves. And that's not like a judgment or anything. It's more of just an observation. But they still, I will say that the female entrepreneur community, not only do they live betrayal trauma, they might not just call it that, but they have still a lot of trauma in their relationships, and they don't always necessarily know that's what is holding them back in their business goals. Maybe they feel something happening like between themselves and their kids, because again, my clients, their kids are really, really, really important to them. My clients want the best for their kids. They want um, a lot of hope for their kids. They want to show up big for their kids. And I get it. Like I absolutely get that. I want the same thing for my children. Or maybe there's a struggle in their relationship with their husbands. I had a conversation with a really sweet lady. Oh, I want to say well, I'll say a little while ago. She had some major, major prestige in her career. She was a politician. She was a hospital uh oh my gosh, CEO. Like she was the head of a hospital. And but yet at home her husband was constantly cheating on her, and you could see the fracturing happening in her. Even though she had all this prestige and all of this success, she felt like at home there was a ton of failure and she couldn't bring the two together. So these are some of the things that my clients deal with, right? Uh, Definitely some rough relationships. And even though they might be having all of the success in their business, they feel like something is missing because their relationships are showing up for them a certain way. And even in their business, their relationships aren't really solid relationships that they can trust, right? So this is where they come to me. And one of the first things I can say I start all of my clients on is this idea of being your own best friend. Because when you have so many people coming back and reflecting back at you that maybe you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, not enough, not enough, not enough. And even though you've gone out and created all this success, somewhere in the back of your mind, you might still think, Well, maybe I'm not enough. Maybe there's still something wrong with me, right? And it doesn't matter how much you go out and create or how much you do or the success you have, it feels like it's not enough. And that's a problem because eventually your business will feel like the burnout option. Eventually you'll feel like all these areas of success that you're getting that aren't being acknowledged are the burnout option. And it all comes back down to this one thing, being your own best friend. So what does that look like? See, I was just chatting with a client today who she's found prestige, she's found success, she's done all these things. She's done all the things, but the people in her life kept tearing her down. And she she was asking me about like why why she felt like nobody could actually appreciate her, why she was constantly trying to find all this momentum. And I need more momentum, is what she kept telling her. And I stopped her and I said, who's telling you this? Well, come to find out, she had talked to a couple other coaches, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I told her, I said, the last thing you want to do in your business right now is create more momentum in your business because it's not your business that needs momentum. I told her, I said, the thing that you really need right now is clarity. She had just barely decided to leave her husband, who was toxic and narcissistic and beyond cruel to her. And she's having a hard time putting more effort and energy into her business. And the thing is if she tried to right now, she'd find herself even more burnt out and even more overwhelmed. What she needs is the boundary of being your own best friend. And here's the reason why. Because when you come from deep trauma or relational trauma in some way, or even any type of trauma, goodness, you could have developmental trauma, or you could have um, a generational trauma or societal trauma. Like there's different types of trauma, right? Every single one of them can put such a burden on you that trying to create more momentum in your business feels like it's just too much. It's exhausting. You want your business to reflect the energy that you have inside of your soul because a true soul offering has you all over it. And your ideal client knows, 100% knows that they want to work with you because you're all over it. Now, if you try to just throw yourself into the business when you're feeling fractured in any way, that can and often does lead to just quitting completely. And it also leads to clients coming in that are not aligned with who you truly are because we're not actually taking care of the one thing that first and foremost needs to be taken care of, and that's the clarity in who the business owner is. It's wonderful to run a business, but if you don't know who you are in the process of running that business, it definitely can bring in employees and clients that will betray you there as well. And it's the same thing. This is why our personal and business relationships are so intertwined. Because if you don't know who you are in your personal life either, that those relationships will reflect that. They will try to tell you. And you might not always like what they say. So, who, like, be your own best friend? Like, what does that look like? How do you want people to actually show up for you? That's the question. How do you want people to speak to you? How do you want people to show up? How do you want people to love you? Like, If you were to have a best friend that you knew had your back, that you knew spoke words of truth, who loved you enough to be goofy with you, but also loved you enough to be serious with you, right? That if they gave you feedback, you knew that it was coming from a place of love because they consistently showed up that way. What does a best friend look like to you? This is the question that I want you guys answering. And I want you to start journaling on that. Like, write it out. What kind of characteristics do they have? What are their age group? Are they married? Are they single? Maybe it doesn't matter whether they're married or single, but like, what do their relationships look like? Right? Because another thing you want to think about is the fact that whatever relationship you call into your life, you're also calling in their group of relationships as well. You're only one person away from that person, right? So what do their relationships look like? How do those relationships reflect back to them? This is the clarity piece, right? When it comes to that business owner, who is she? What does your own best friend look like? What are the characteristics that that person has? Like, get clear on that person and then turn that energy onto yourself. Start showing up that way. Because if you show up that way, yeah, like people will tell you there's an energy, and that's totally true. Like, there's an energy between you and the other person. Like, they naturally feel it and they naturally connect. But it's more than that. Actually, on a subconscious level, what's happening is once you start treating yourself like your own best friend, you start noticing those characteristics in other people. And because you're trusting yourself, it teaches you who and what to trust. And you can see that in clients. And you can see, like, if you're up here and you're doing the whole best friend energy thing, and I'm being my own best friend, you can see like where your gap is, but you can also see where somebody else's gap is. You can say, oh, they have this characteristic, and this characteristic, and this characteristic that align with me, but I can see that they still need help in this characteristic, and this characteristic, and this characteristic, right? That's your ideal client in a nutshell, literally. Okay. But you can also look and say, okay, this is like the next version of myself. I have this characteristic, this characteristic, this characteristic, and I want to work on this one. So maybe I need to hire a coach, or maybe I need to do some studying. Like, what is it that I need to do to show up for myself as my best friend? Because life is all about getting clarity. 90% of the actions that we take that actually lead to big money take clear action, clear understanding, right? And yeah, like there might still be a little bit of guesswork in the actions that we take. But again, if we're our own best friend, we don't judge ourselves for those. We actually appreciate and praise ourselves for the act, for taking that action and then realizing where we need to still tweak and align. It is okay. It is 100% okay to take like clear action and still not know all the steps. Just knowing that this is the direction you want to go and this is how we're going to alternate and shift and change and grow. Um, Another good friend of mine recently reached out to me, and she was telling me about an experience she had with a potential client where she knew that this person wasn't in alignment with her and uh what like her coaching program. This person like met almost every single one of her criteria except one thing. They weren't open to seeing how they could improve. Now, obviously, that makes a big difference, right? Like when we're calling and coaching clients, or even uh, our our like say you own a dress shop, right? There's a certain type of client that you want to come into your dress shop. You're going to advertise to that specific client, right? If you own a restaurant, there's a certain client you want to come in. This is why we have an Olive Garden Italian restaurant. If people want Italian food that day, they go to Olive Garden, right? If they want a formal dress for prom, they go to the formal dress shop. If they want a wedding dress, they go to the wedding dress shop. If they want a Sunday dress, they go to the Sunday dress shop, right? Depending on what people want, that is where they go. If people don't see how they need to improve, well, we're going to have a struggle with that client. Say you own the dress shop and that person is wearing clothes that are completely out of style for their energy and their body type, right? And you can see it. If they don't think they need to improve, that person is definitely not your ideal client. Or say perhaps you have an I you have an Italian cuisine restaurant. If that person is in the mood for hamburgers or pizza, well, I guess pizza does actually align with Italian food, but maybe they want hamburgers or they want Chinese, right? And they're not open to having somebody change their mind about Italian food that night. You're probably not going to have that person walk through your doors. The same thing happens in our coaching programs as well. If that person isn't in alignment with your best friend energy or being your own best friend energy, um, that person's probably not going to come through your coaching doors. And that's what happened with my friend here. She had a fabulous potential client call, but when that person didn't believe they had anything to learn, there's no reason at all why they would hire her to be a coach. Because a coach is there to actually teach us the things that we need to learn for our next steps. My friend stayed in her best friend energy, in being her own best friend. And this is one of the things I love about her, right? Is how dedicated to being her own best friend she is. As a matter of fact, I'll say it. I'm all about being my own best friend. It is one of the things that my clients come to me for consistently. And I still think that sometimes she is a better best friend to herself than I am even to me. But I love that about her because that means there's a lot I can learn still from her, right? And I watched her stay in her best friend energy and simply say, you are a fabulous person. And I think you've got fabulous ideas. I can totally see how people would want to come to you for coaching, but I don't think you and I are in alignment for this coaching program. And I loved that she had the guts to say that, right? Because again, she's not letting the dollar be higher than her self-worth. She allows the dollar to match her self-worth instead. And this is why, again, being your own best friend is such an important key to transformation in your personal life, your business life, and your financial life as well. So, yeah, be your own best friend. Become your own best friend. Get clear on who that is and what that looks like. Remember that there's three main ways that we communicate. Think about how is that best friend going to communicate in their words? What do their words sound like? What kind of language do they use? Two, uh, energy, right? What does their energy feel like? How does it sound? How does it feel? How do you feel when you're around that, right? What kind of energy does that best friend have? And three, what kind of actions does that best friend take? So remember that communication comes down to our words, our actions, and our energy, right? So get clear on what a best friend looks like in each one of those ways, because alignment is created when we are communicating the same thing in all three of those ways. We will feel out of alignment if our language does not match our actions and our energy, or we can see that in other people. If someone else's actions and their words don't match their actions and energy, well, that's where mistrust is often bred. Okay. Going back to my one client who just divorced her narcissistic husband, um, we got taken a look at like his actions, his words and his energy and what they were saying. And consistently across the board, he was saying he wasn't reliable, right? He was somebody who wasn't reliable. And that was the one thing that he would say that actually matched his actions and his energy. And so this is the piece that we learned to trust. So be your own best friend, my loves. Figure out, what do we want to actually say? How does a best friend communicate to you? What do they say? What actions do they take? What does their energy feel like? Get really, really clear on that and then turn that inward. Look at yourself and start becoming your own best friend, because the one person you don't want to betray in any way is yourself. You are the golden nugget. You are the thing that creates the mission, the passion, and the purpose. If you are the thing to protect. You are the thing that does the creation in your life. You are the creation generator. So it makes sense to protect your actions, your energy, and your words as well. It makes sense to protect that best friend. And it makes sense to show up for that person as well. All right, my loves. So that's it for this week's episode. If you guys want more help, please feel free to reach out. In the show notes below, there is a link to book a call with me. And in that call, we will take a look at your relationships and see what your relationships are telling you and reflecting back to you. And oftentimes we can find out like what it is that's blocking you from your next level of success and how we can change it. What couple of boundaries we can put into place that will help you really show up as the CEO in your life and in your business. Go book that call if that's something you would like. And in the meantime, my loves, I will see you next week. Bye.
All right, Boundary Boss Babes. I'm super excited that you tuned in with me today. Make sure you tune in again next week as we chat about more Boundary Boss Babe topics. We're going to get into so many other things about how to set boundaries with your business, how to set boundaries with your relationships, so you can truly have the time, the money, and the flexibility that you are seeking. So tune in next week. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast. Let your other Boss Babe friends know about it. And also, if you've got any questions, make sure you submit them into the podcast by clicking on the send us a text message at the bottom of the podcast description. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. See you later, Boss Babes.